One of the big things that I am trying to my best to get across to the marketplace is this way of the modern master.
Mm.
So the way of the modern master is integrating everything that we're talking about here into an identity and a character. One of the biggest things that I found in those beginning stages as I was finding more alignment and finding my way and moving with courage and traveling and just trying to figure things out was always having some sort of North Star. And I didn't necessarily have a religion that I was always falling back on. I was raised like Catholic, but never like didn't really have a deep connection with that. So I always had to kind of find a direction to move in. And for me, it was about creating this identity, this man I wanted to become. Now, I didn't have a name for that at the time, but it was a set of character traits. It was a set of values. It was a set of ways of operating and behaviors and actions that I would embody on a day-to-day basis. And that has formed into the way of the modern master. And how I see this and why I want to share this is because this is so important for the men, especially listening to this, which are, we live in a society that's mainly driven by if you just need to take more action, you need to do more volume, you need to do all of that, and when you do that, you'll get the result. But it's far more than that. That's quite a I'm not even going to say it's a masculine way of operating. It's a wounded masculine way of operating because a lot of it comes from if I just work and I just ignore my feelings and I just keep pushing, keep grinding, I'll be able to get to this imaginary outcome, imaginary goal but then I'll feel this certain way. It's quite a dangerous place to be because it's coming from a wounded energy. So this is why we need the balance of the feminine energy, right? We all have masculine and feminine energy. That's a triggering thing if you're hearing that for the first time, but we all have that energy within us. It's nothing to do with man or woman. It's just a type of energy. So we need to be able to balance both so that we can tap into like this healing energy, being able to deeply love ourselves, being able to receive love, being able to take rest when we need to as well, and be able to be okay with having more fun, hanging out with friends and actually just living life in such a way where we're enjoying things and tapping into that type of energy where where we can be creative and we can, because feminine energy is playful, it's creative, it's nurturing, it's loving. We all have that within us as well. To be able to serve to the highest level as men, we need more of that. So to be able to cultivate what's more in alignment with the divine masculine energy, which is more structured, more listening, more able to operate from a place of just like responsibility, congruency, and confidence, because of like they've done the inner work that comes from the feminine energy to be able to show up and produce from a very strong place. So that to me is like, and that's something that will constantly evolve, is the way of the modern master, which I'm helping men to cultivate more of within their business so that they're balancing these two things so that they can be in flow, they can be magnetic to dream clients, they can attract the things they want into their life because they've healed that part of themselves and they're tapped in spiritually. But then they're also an operator, a producer, someone who shows up, and they're not just kind of waiting around and manifesting and trying to hope that things come into their life. They're out there in the trenches building, but they're doing it from a place of love and congruency and confidence, clarity and conviction within themselves. And that way is something that I bring across in my YouTube, in my Instagram, and that's something that I'm actively embodying myself and will never fully embody because I know this is an ever evolving journey. There'll always be more levels, but it's a North Star and it's a direction for men to head in. So I wanted to share that because I think it's really important that we cultivate more of that as men so that we can tap into both sides and really just live an incredible life, and actually show up from a powerful place for the women in our lives as well, because the women that we want to attract into our life, or the relationship or the partner or the friends, we need to be able to be a staple of masculinity for them as well. And to be able to receive love from them, we need to be able to love ourselves. Because if you're a man who's just in the trenches working constantly, ignoring his feelings, how are you going to love a woman? Like, how are you actually going to show up and be that man for her? So it's not just about business, it's about living a holistically powerful life, which is accepting those unhealed parts of yourself, healing those things so you can show up more powerfully and balance those two energies as the way of the modern master. Like everything that we're talking about, it can seem very up in the air, like how do I grasp it? How do I latch onto that? How do I make sense of it? Because our logical minds and our ego, we get caught up in, okay, but what's the result, or how do I calculate this? How do I know when I'm in alignment? How do I know if I'm on the right path? How do I know if I'm increasing my energy levels or if I'm operating from a higher frequency? I was very aware of that because that was something I was constantly asking myself as well. I think as men as well, we're a little bit more discerning about how we use those things in our life because naturally our minds are going to be wired that way.
Yeah.
So for me, I was like, okay, how do I make this measurable? Because nobody's doing this. It's the biggest objection that people get who are like, let's say if you're a spiritual coach, it's the biggest objection that you'll get from people who don't understand the spiritual world. But the people who don't understand the spiritual world to the depths of you are the people who need it the most. So how do you make it tangible for those people? Well, I had to start tracking things, which I'm not going to lie, it's a bit all over the place. I'm still refining the system of how I do it, but how we do it is on the onboarding phase, when someone becomes a client, we track each area on a scale of 1 to 10 of like where they're currently at, right? From a variety of different areas. The ones that you see on my Instagram posts where it's like mastery recalibration is a segment of those. There's far more as well that we calculate. They're just not as relevant to more like portraying that online. So we track all of those different things, and then we check in weekly, as well as monitoring the calls of those check-ins as well. So you have the onboarding, you have the weekly reflections, and then on the calls as well, you're also monitoring the levels and rating those different areas. And over time, you get an average of like the increases or decreases in different things, and also based on the external result that they receive as well. So at the very end, we track income. How does all of this, the decrease in procrastination, the decrease in fear and anxiety and overthinking, the decrease in self-doubt, how do we see that decreasing, and then the action increasing, the alignment increasing, and then the income increasing as well? So when you track that, it makes it tangible for people to understand that doing this work matters to actually getting the inevitable goal, which is maybe increasing your income if you're in business, or sales, which is mainly the people I help with as well. So that's what matters to them in terms of an external result. But this is the mechanism of how we do it. And usually it's just they apply the same strategies that they were doing anyway in business. Nothing really changes there. Maybe a couple of tweaks to like how they brand themselves or how they show up. But a lot of the time there's nothing really changed on that front. It's more just like the internal side, because that naturally changes the energy that they bring to their marketing, their sales calls, and they close more deals because of it. So yeah, it's been really fun, but it's still a bit of a monster that I'm trying to tackle right now to be able to refine it and make it more accurate, more streamlined as well, because it's a lot of back end work as well.
Yeah.
But it's fun.